Hello everybody, welcome to Cloud on Air. If you're just joining us, we are live here from our office in London. If you're joined us before and you're rejoining us, then welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us. We had some really interesting sessions. As ever, and as you have seen me say this before, will be sick of hearing me say, please do vote on the survey so that we get your feedback. We really want to incorporate all of the things you have to say and make this better. And please do ask questions. I have a funny feeling this is going to be a question or a session that's going to elucidate a lot of questions. But please do get in there, get answering the questions down there. We'll answer some of them interactively during the session, and we'll also hold some back at the end to answer live for you. So the final topic today is one that I know is top of mind for a lot of people. We talked a lot about some really great, cool technology, but actually, are you able to use it? Are you allowed to use it? What about security? What about compliance? What about GDPR? So we've got two experts in to talk to you about that. We have Julian Blanchez. So Julian works in a number of different roles in Google. Recently, he was embedded into some of the security teams, advising on security and engineering. We're very lucky to have him in Google Cloud, where he is working with some of our biggest customers to tackle some of these compliance questions. We also have Tobias Schneider. Tobias runs the G Suite team for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. He's an expert in G Suite. He's going to talk to us a little bit about some of the features in G Suite and also how they can help and support you in doing that. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Tobias and to Julian.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Julian. I'm a security and compliance specialist. My role is to engage with highly regulated customers and regulators. I'm based out of Brussels. Together with Tobias, today we will share with you how using public cloud services can actually help you in your journey to compliance. We want to talk about three things, right? So first is, how do we keep your data secure from a technical point of view, explaining the advantages of large cloud providers in terms of security. Then we will pivot onto data protection and the commitments that we give from a legal point of view to make sure that you respect your regulatory obligations when you work with the services of a cloud service provider. Then, Tobias, you will take G Suite as an example, right? And explain some of the G Suite security features and show how cloud technology can improve your technology posture, which will be very relevant and important in the eyes of a regulator. So first and foremost, it's well known today that almost all organizations are considering moving all or part of their workloads to the cloud. Google Cloud only, among all other large cloud providers, has 4 million organizations using their services. And as you can see on this slide, many of them are using or handling some of the most sensitive data that exists out there. So, think about companies. You can see there companies coming from the financial services industry, from the healthcare industry, companies like PwC, rolling out hundreds of thousands of employees on G Suite. Companies in the media, for whom the life and death of some of their sources can depend on the security of the data. And, not to name them, and we are very proud, the team of the Cabinet Office, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, using G Suite to collaborate for many months now. So what might be surprising to many is that security has become, in the last month, one of the very reasons why they consider using the cloud. For cloud providers, in any case, we have started to bring security forward as one of the key values we have to offer. Of course, we can't cover all of our security investments and technology in 15 minutes. I wish this were true. But we can try to summarize it now today within 4 key messages. The first key security advantage that we have is our capability to anticipate, right? If you want to assess the security of any given system, you will assess the capability to anticipate, the capability to defend, and the capability to react. In terms of anticipation, Google operates 7 products with more than 1 billion users. That means that we know a lot about what is happening on the web, a lot that is great, and that we share with you within our search results, but also a lot that is terrible and that we work very hard to protect you from. The second has to do with how we handle complexity. Our infrastructure was created from a blank slate without the burden of layers and generations of legacy technology, really creating the complexity that is one of the root causes of the security problem online today. It's not that Google is not complex, 2 billion lines of codes, 30,000 engineers making something like 40,000 change requests per day on the code. So immense complexity, but managed by automation, intelligent automation. And if you want to have an example of how this intelligent automation or artificial intelligence, not to use a buzzword, was used in the past to solve a very important security problem, think of spam. Back in the 90s, there was so much spam, email was almost unusable. Spam has been increasing by 2 to 5% per year. There's never been more spam in the world than today, and it continues to grow. But in your Gmail inbox, you have less than 0.1% of spam in your inbox. And that is because these machines have been able to understand what is spam and not spam. Knowing that spam is one of the main vectors to transmit malware, this is a major victory. The third advantage has to do with our global infrastructure. This is a map of at the high level of our infrastructure, 17 data centers around the world, connected with our own dark fiber. Being able to process your data on such a global infrastructure is not a bug. It's a feature, contrary to what others might be saying. Having our own infrastructure and our own dark fiber allows us to be much more in control of our destiny when it comes to transfer data, across continents. This world scale provides very high redundancy, allowing us to transfer data from one part of the world to the other, in case of disasters. And most importantly, using an infrastructure of that size, we are in a position where we can aim to provide the same level of security to everybody. Finally, the last point on technology is, our homogeneity. Because of the size we operate at, we have been able to make ourselves most of the technology that we use, and therefore we have kept more control, more homogeneity across the entire technology stack. That means it's relatively easier to detect incidents and relatively easier to react in case of incidents. In times where regulators demand fast reaction and fast communication in terms of incident, this is something that matters. So at every level of the technology stack that you see there, we have built defenses in depth, that we also describe increasingly transparently in numerous white papers published online. If you Google Infrastructure Security Overview, for example, just Google that, Google Infrastructure Security Overview, or Google Encryption at Rest, or Google Encryption in Transit, you will find a great level of technical detail in several documents. And that is necessary because, of course, many of your organizations will require much more detail and proof of our technical capabilities in security. But personally, I yet have to come across an organization that we couldn't reassure on our technical abilities in terms of security. However, the problem is always when the people we engage with realize that to benefit from that augmented security, they understand that they need to put their data onto our infrastructure. And that requires trust, a leap of faith, really. And to facilitate this trust, we can do three things, I believe. We can't force you to trust us, but we can do three things to help. A is be more transparent, which we do now, hopefully, and through the publications. B is provide contractual commitments that we meet expectations or the expectations of the regulator. And three, or C, prove by external audits that we do what we say we do. Okay, so let's dive into that. Like all other cloud providers, we undergo third-party audits on a regular basis that verify that we do all that we say we do. These are executed to very known global standards, ISO or SOC. But we also make sure that we receive increasingly validation in various forms from local regulatory bodies to make sure that we can deliver our services to highly regulated local organizations. Top of mind comes a recent certification for the Spanish public sector, for example, which allows us now to deliver our services to the Spanish public sector. Second, as I said, we provide you contractual commitments that meet the expectations or reflect the expectations of the regulator, both for you as a data controller, so remaining fully in control of your data, and for us as a data processor, who is only allowed to process your data to deliver you the service that you pay for. That means that just like all other cloud providers, we will only process the data to do what you order us to do, okay? And not use it to improve the quality of the service or deliver marketing activities. So check your contractual commitments. This needs to be in there. Your legal teams will be looking for very specific commitments in our contracts to make sure that they meet expectations of the GDPR. They will find them all because we have updated all of our contractual terms last November to make sure that they reflect the expectations of the GDPR. Of course, the hot topic here is international data transfers. Are you even allowed to use a large international cloud provider to process European personal data under the GDPR? Well, the best way to know is to go and check for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Google Article 46 of the GDPR in your own language and read on what condition European data may be processed outside of Europe or exported outside of Europe. The GDPR actually offers 6 different mechanisms to allow for international data transfers. Like all other cloud providers, Google offers several of those. The Privacy Shield is one, but model contract clauses are now most used by all cloud vendors. These are additional security measures that are proposed by the EU regulators to ensure that the data processor or controller has the adequate safety measures in place to allow for European data to flow outside of Europe. All large cloud providers have these measures in place because it is necessary to remain compliant. Whatever guarantee you may receive that data will remain or not in Europe, in the cloud, data flows. And very often, it could be outside of Europe. That is why, all major cloud providers today offer these model contract clauses so that you know that you remain compliant. Google's model contract clauses have been approved by the European Data Protection Authorities back in early 2017, so you can count on them to prove that your international data transfers are compliant. This approval is binding, by the way, and European data protection authorities cannot come back on this opinion as long as they remain as they have been submitted, of course. So all this allowed us to confirm last November that our contractual engagements now reflect the expectations of the GDPR and show how committed we are, to meet the expectations of the GDPR. All of our existing customers have already received, back in November, updated terms through their admin console, and they can already opt in to these terms. These will then become active automatically on 25th of May 2018. New customers also receive these terms from now on as they consider to engage on our platform. To summarize, I want to say that when you consider a move to the cloud, you should think of segmenting your decision process in 4 distinct risk assessments. This is an advice that we give increasingly, and I has received good feedback. It is a confusing decision, a complex decision, a risky decision, but segmented in 4 distinct steps. The first, make a technical assessment. From a purely and solely technical point of view, where is your data most secure? On a global infrastructure, atomized and encrypted, across these data centers, or, under your desk, on premise, in your own infrastructure. We believe that we have a case to make that cloud service providers offer a great advantage there. Second, make a legal assessment. We have seen what the GDPR really asks, and a lot of the current regulations are moving really in a directions to make it more easy and more feasible to adopt large cloud providers. And so the legal discussion is becoming more and more clearer now, and people know exactly what are the conditions to use a cloud service providers, as we have seen. The third is a political assessment. There are some countries today that are passing laws to keep data in country. Russia in 2015, China in June 2017. If you operate from these countries, this is where you have work to do. And we have, we can help, we can still help. We have many customers from China or from Russia, but indeed this is where a lot of thinking, and good planning needs to happen. Finally, you will have a 4th assessment to make, which is the cultural assessment, right? So you might have reasons why it is difficult to convince your stakeholders to move to a public cloud. But the key point is, if you're making a technical trade-off in terms of security for a cultural emotional reason, you should be aware that this is what you're doing. Okay. Finally, of course, the GDPR means a lot of change for all organizations worldwide, actually, because it affects any organization handling European data and targeting their services towards the European Union. So you will need to address the culture and the processes across all departments of your organization, and technology can help you to ensure that ethical handling of the personal data happens and you document that handling properly. Depending on how you decide to deploy cloud technology in your organization, either as an infrastructure as a service or platform as a service or software as a service, your cloud service provider will take over some of the security tasks for you. The tasks, I said. I didn't say the responsibilities. The lawyers among you will already have spotted where the mistake could have been. But security is a shared responsibility, and you will always keep some areas where you have to do the job. Tobias will now take G Suite as an example, as a software as a service, to describe how some of the security features available in G Suite can help you significantly to increase your security posture and thereby improve your compliance journey. These features are not mandatory, by the way, to achieve compliance, but if you activate them, they will help protect your personal data better. Tobias, up to you.
Thanks, Julien, and welcome to the second part of our webinar. My name is Tobias, and I'm part of the Google Cloud Account Management team. So we learned from Julien that GDPR is really changing the game and asking a lot from you as a corporation. But you also heard that in the software as a service environment, and hence G Suite, Google, as the data processor, can help with the management of security and GDPR compliance. That is the good news. Unfortunately, the bad news is that major threats in the context of the enterprise are on the rise. In fact, G Suite users are 6 times more targeted by phishing and 4 times more targeted by malware than consumer Gmail accounts. G Suite actively protects against these threats. There are a number of robust, general-purpose defenses that are enabled by default. However, this standard protection can only take your security level up to a certain point, and hence many corporations have advanced security controls in place to fully protect personal information and the data. So today, there are 3 things I want to talk about. I will first summarize these major threats for you. Second, name a few out-of-the-box defenses G Suite offers. And then thirdly, really focus on some of our advanced G Suite security features that can help you boost your own GDPR compliance. So let's dive into it. The first enterprise risk out there is phishing. And phishing basically, or a phishing email basically, impersonates a legitimate communication with the user. So what it does is that it tricks the user into leaking information. That could be financial information, that could be a password, etc. In the context of the enterprise, it's also very important to point out spear phishing. Spear phishing is the targeted variant of phishing, where an attacker actually will pick one specific target and use information about that target in order to increase chances of success. Second comes malware. Malware is a malicious payload that is delivered onto the user's computer through various means. So it can be a document, could be a website, or an email attachment. It usually runs with full privileges on the user's machine and can therefore do pretty much anything it wants. Malware is traditionally used to get a permanent foothold into the organization, which is what makes it very, very dangerous, and that's posing a so-called advanced persistent threat to enterprises. Thirdly, there are client attacks. Client attacks allow a hijacker to execute scripts in the victim's browser. And this attack is used to intercept user sessions, to insert hostile content, and to conduct phishing attacks. So as I mentioned before, the good news is that G Suite provides a strong baseline of security and a number of robust general corpus defenses which are enabled by default. Here you can see a non-exhaustive list, but I'd also like to call out a few examples. So for phishing, we do have state-of-the-art machine learning classifiers. We use both supervised and unsupervised learning to not only be reactive to phishing attacks, but to really detect them right as they start. For malware and malware detection, we perform dynamic execution and static analysis on content by running certain files in a virtual machine to observe the interaction with the operating system and to detect that malicious behavior. To protect against client attacks, we perform HTML sanitization, examining HTML documents. So, despite all of these standard security settings, we cannot offer total protection against these threats. One challenge is, for example, that general corpus defenses can only take your security to a certain level. But luckily, you as the admin, you can take proactive steps to configure and enable more defense settings. So let's now look at these settings and explore some of our advanced G Suite security features that help you harden your organization's security. As I mentioned earlier, in corporate mail, you are 6 times more targeted by phishing and 4 times more targeted by malware attacks. And the life cycle of these attacks often begins with a stolen password. So with millions of stolen passwords out there, password-only authentication is very, very risky. So one of the key questions you should ask yourself today is how you protect a user's account from unauthorized access should a hijacker manage to obtain their password. To reduce the risk of unauthorized access and prevent password theft at Google, all of the Google employees, for example, use security keys. So everyone has a security key, and Julian is showing his one here, is using that for 2-step verification. Security keys, why are they so important and powerful? Because they add another layer of security for user accounts by asking for additional proof of identity when signing in. And unlike other 2-factor authentication mechanisms, security keys require a physical key for sign-in, and they are not vulnerable to phishing. As a G Suite customer, you can even take that further, and you can add 1 stone more in your GDPR compliance by enforcing this use of security keys within your enterprise in order to ensure gapless execution. So after logging into our accounts, I believe, Julia, it is fair to say that many of us spend a lot of time on emails. So for myself, I would estimate that I receive about 50 emails and send out about another 50 emails every single day. So let's do some math here. If we multiply that figure by the number of colleagues, for example, that I have in the Google office, in the Google Zurich office, that's about 3,000 people, we suddenly have 300,000 mails every single day. If you scale this even further and you multiply that by the number of working days a year has, we land at an 8-digit figure of emails that are being sent and that are being received. So the key question you should really discuss next is how you can enhance the integrity and confidentiality of your organization's email messages. How do you really do that? How can you protect financial information? How can you protect client data, patents, valuable assets when communicating via email? If you want to establish integrity, if you want to uphold privacy, if you want to preserve sensitive data, and if you want to mitigate email attacks, we encourage you to also explore SMIME. What is SMIME? SMIME stands for secure, multi-purpose internet mail extensions, and it is an industry standard way of encrypting email. It helps protect your emails from unwanted access and allows you to digitally sign your emails to verify you as the legitimate sender of that message. It thereby makes it a very effective weapon against many phishing attacks out there. What is special here is that we are allowing our G Suite customers to bring their own certificates to be able to do encryption using them. We are also providing an admin API to allow large corporations to do that at scale. So let's take a quick recap. Now that you have logged your user account, ideally at the beginning of every day, right, by two-step verification, and you have encrypted email, you already have a more robust security setup. However, sometimes, and we all know that user actions compromise the best of all of these controls. So for example, a user might hit reply all accidentally when meaning to send a private message with sensitive content. And with the GDPR coming, we suddenly also need to be aware of what is in our database, and we need to discuss how we can scan Gmail and Drive for sensitive information to prevent data loss. So another area of security I would therefore like to introduce you to is data loss prevention, or in short, DLP. DLP adds another layer of protection to prevent sensitive information from being revealed to the people who shouldn't have it. So let's look at an example here. Organizations may have a policy in place that the sales department shouldn't share customer credit card information with vendors. And to keep information safe, admins can easily set up a DLP policy by selecting credit card numbers from a library of predefined content detectors. Gmail DLP will automatically check all outgoing email from the sales department, and it will take action based on what the admin has specified. So it could either quarantine the email for review, it could tell the user to modify the information, or it could block the email from being sent and thereby notify the sender. These checks don't just apply to email text, but they actually also apply to the content that's inside the email. So that could be a document, a presentation, a spreadsheet. And admins can also create custom rules with keywords and regular expressions. Beyond Gmail, you can also prevent users from sharing sensitive content in Google Drive, including team drives, with people outside of your organization. For example, if a user shares a file with let's say a bank number or a tax ID number, you can send an email to the super admin to let them know. You could also warn users when they try to share a file, or you could completely block anyone outside the organization from accessing this file. Lastly, I would like to introduce you to the G Suite Security Center. We know that GDPR is asking a lot from us and also a lot from you, and we therefore want to make it very convenient for you to manage your organization's data security and responsibilities. A big part of this is making sure that you and your admins can access a bird's eye view of your security. And more importantly, that you can take action based on timely insights. So with the Security Center, key executives and admins can first see a snapshot of important security metrics, all in one dashboard. Second, they can examine security analytics to flag potential threats early. And third, adopt a customized security health recommendation. So to recap, Julien, we looked in the second part of this webinar at some of the key threats organizations like yours are facing today. You learned that G Suite provides standard protection and a strong baseline of security. However, to really bolster your security posture, we encourage you to work with advanced security controls, such as two-step verification using security keys, S/MIME for Gmail, and data loss prevention for Gmail and Drive. We also briefly introduced you to the G Suite Security Center. So in summary, G Suite makes it very convenient for admins to manage everything when it comes to security and boosting GDPR compliance. However, and I would like to use that same expression again, it is a shared responsibility that you pointed out, Julia, and I fully agree with that. It is a shared responsibility between us, the data processor, Google, and you, the data controller. You are the one that has to take action and full advantage of the security features that are in place and that are available. And of course, the Google Cloud Account Management team is here to support you on that journey. So thanks for your attention, and we will now start with Q&A. So let's see if we have some questions.
Let's have a look. Let's take the first one. Are we going to take them all? I don't know. It's going to be a long question. So maybe then we'll need to have shorter answers. So the first question really is, how can you be so prepared for the GDPR? Well, in fact, we have started a long time ago to
We're just refreshing the questions. Yeah.
So we have started a long time ago to work on the GDPR. So many of the requirements of the GDPR existed for a long time, and we were, engaging for many years with the different data privacy authorities in Europe to make sure that we reflected their expectations in our past engagements already. So many of the things that are now expected to be ready in May 2015 are things that we had been asked to achieve sometimes back in 2012 or 2014. So that is one of the reasons why. The second reason is that the GDPR is a law. And so for us, it was not a question of if or, but, we put a lot of resource behind that. And it's been many, many months now that a great number of Googlers have been working to make sure that we reflect the expectations of the GDPR, not only in our contractual commitment, but also in our technical baseline. So I hope this addresses. Do users find out why they can't share a file when DLP is enabled? This is for you.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So the answer is yes. Users do find out if some of the files they wanted to share are blocked. And they actually do receive a DLP-specific message, which gives them the reason for that. And if there are multiple violations in place, we're going to show the user, let's say, the first detection that has caused a match.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this one I received many times. Does the GDPR require storage of personal data in the EU? So we looked at Article 46 together. Article 46 answers that question. But so the answer is the GDPR requires adequate safety measures to be in place for any European data to leave Europe. So this is the requirement. So to answer directly the question, no, the GDPR does not require storage of personal data in the EU on condition that these adequate safety measures are in place. And this is why your cloud provider offers, among other things, other mechanisms, model contract clauses that prove that your cloud provider commits to provide these safety measures that allow the international data transfers. So in brief, if you have model contract clauses in place, you can use a large cloud provider with the European data traveling inside and outside of Europe. Why did I receive a mail asking me to accept the version 2 of the data processing amendment? So the data processing amendment is an addendum to our contracts in which we make the contractual guarantees necessary for you to use a cloud provider respecting the GDPR. Okay, so We have updated this data processing amendment back in November, making sure that our contractual commitments reflect the expectations of the GDPR. So you need to sign this document if you want to remain compliant with the GDPR in a way, because this is how you will benefit from our additional protection. Last thing I want to say is that these commitments you can opt into them and they will become valid on the 25th of May 2018, right? So until then, you benefit from our standard data protection, and then when the GDPR becomes active, you benefit from all the additional protection demanded by the GDPR. What happens if I don't accept opt-in to the version 2.0? Well, it is your freedom, of course, but keep in mind, this update just brings you a reflection of the expectations of the GDPR in contractual terms. So this is only additional guarantees that you receive that will allow you to use a cloud provider or use Google, basically, respecting the expectations of the GDPR. So if you decide not to benefit from this protection, it is your freedom, but of course, you might be liable for inspection from the regulator and consequences. Do I need to use third-party tools to keep my data secure within Google? Do you want to keep that? Do you want to take that?
I can take that. So you basically learned today that G Suite offers lots of security features already. And with these features, you can meet, we can meet most customer requirements when it comes to security. And we also had a look today at some of these advanced features and features that you could additionally add, such as data loss prevention, SMIME, security keys, etc., in order to even increase your security posture. So if you would like to go beyond that, and if you feel that this is not sufficient yet, we also do have a partner marketplace that basically goes beyond our own capabilities, and that is out there for you to use that.
Exactly. Data classification is important to help respond to subject access requests. Is there a Google method to tag classify email in G Suite to help respond to these requests?
Subject access requests.
So at Google, we do classify data, of course, and you have to keep in mind that any customer data is always classified at Google as the highest confidentiality. So in a way, our classifications make sure that your data is kept at the highest level of confidentiality. In terms of using G Suite for it, of course, you can classify data into G Suite and build your own system. But to my knowledge, there is nothing specifically built to support this kind of request. Can we insist on security key usage for some of your customers and not others? I'm not sure I understand that question. You mean maybe some of the users, not of your customers, but some of the users and not others? Yes.
Of the users, yeah.
So this is absolutely right. So, so an administrator can decide who needs to deploy or use two-step authentication, and in those that use two-step authentication, who use a security key, for example, and you can absolutely define that and scale that across your enterprise.
That is absolutely correct. What I would like to add to that is also to really have a very good reason of why you would like to segment between your users, right? So I said everyone at Google, from the CEO to someone that has just started with the organization, uses a security key. It is really very, very solid protection that we have out there and that you can use. And that's why we would really encourage you to explore that for you if you haven't done so yet.
Yep, exactly. So I think I'm being told that we have run out of time. So we will make sure that the two remaining questions are being answered in writing into the tool that you all see. I'm really glad that you followed all these sessions. I hope that you enjoyed the sessions. You will be receiving a follow-up email with a link where you can watch the different sessions on demand, and you will also be receiving a questionnaire where you will be asked to provide feedback on our sessions. So hoping this was useful. Looking forward to, see you, maybe not see you, but you see us in the future.
Again, thank you.
Thank you.